Well, it feels like spring today. In fact, it is spring. It's actually the first day of spring. Beautiful day out today, probably 70 degrees. It was getting hot in the greenhouse. I had to open it up, let it air out. I don't have anything going yet, but that's going to change today. We're going to get seeds started. You can see the greenhouse is still standing. I know those of you guys that watched my video from a couple of weeks ago wanted to know, did it make it through the snow? Did it make it through the rain? So far, it's held up pretty well. I did make a mistake. If you watched that video, I had it, I have all these ropes over it tied down to these stakes, but I had two different ropes. I had one that kind of zigzagged back and forth all the way across, and then one that zigzagged the other way back and forth all the way across. Realized that was a mistake because, we had a pretty good windstorm. It was about 40-mile-an-hour winds, and it did pull up one or two of the stakes. Well, the problem was it pulled up one or two of the stakes, and there was only one rope. So whenever that one stake came out of the ground, it loosened up all over it, and I ended up having to go around and it pulled the sides out from underneath the weights on one side. Wasn't a big deal. I mean, it wasn't that big of a deal. I went around and changed it out. So now I've got one rope that goes all the way over, ties off, another rope that goes over, ties off, and then another one here, another one there. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. All the way down, it's individual ropes. Paracord is what it is. So now if I lose a stake, I'm only losing that one rope. I'm not the whole thing. But so far I haven't lost another stake yet. We've had 25, 30 mile an hour winds the last couple of days. Everything's holding up fine. It's not collecting water up here. We're doing great. So it's a good time to go ahead and get seeds started. Now, you read most places, they'll tell you to go ahead and start your seeds 6 to 8 weeks before your last frost date. Our average last frost date around here is April 15th, so I'm only about 3 to 4 weeks away from that. But I find that that's a little bit early. Our average last frost date's April 15th, but it's not that uncommon at all that we get frost all the way up till the 1st of May. And it's usually the second to third, about the second week of May, right around Mother's Day, whenever it's clear enough, the nighttime temperatures are warm enough that I can go ahead and plant my seeds out or plant my transplants out into the garden. So that, that's an awful long time. If I were to go 6 to 8 weeks before my average last frost date, those plants are getting pretty big before they ever go in the garden and starting to get root bound. So I like to wait a little bit later. I like to do it 6 to 8 weeks before Mother's Day because that's kind of around the time that I plan on putting my seeds or my plants out into the garden. So that's right about where we're at. I probably could have done it last week. I was just too busy. I didn't have time to get out here and work. So what I am going to try to do today is I'm going to put tomato plants in and some pepper plants. And I'm going to try to do them underneath the greenhouse here and see if I can get them started directly in the ground under the greenhouse. We'll see if that works. Now, a couple of years ago I tried it, and I'll show you here in a little bit because I'm going to have some pepper plants I'm going to do the same way with these little mini greenhouses like milk jugs and plastic containers and things like that. Worked great, but last year I tried that again and it worked so well the year before. I just relied on that. I didn't even start any other seeds, and it didn't work last year. I didn't get anything to start, and I didn't have anything started in the house. I had to rely on a friend to give me some plants. And anyway, it all worked out in the end, but no, it did not work. But so this year I'm going to be putting them in the ground and trying to get them started in the ground again. But I'm not going to rely just on that. I'm going to start some in the house as well. But first things first, let's get down here, start working in the ground a little bit, and get some seeds in the ground. Okay, so, all right, so we're going to get some seeds started today again. Like I said, I got some tomatoes, I've got some peppers, I've got some squash seeds. I'm not going to worry about starting cucumbers early. I point over here, you can't see it, it's off camera, but that's where my cucumbers go. I'm not going to start them early because they grow so fast, there's no need to get them started too early. And I'm not really, I pickle most of my cucumbers. It's not like I'm in a big hurry to get them going. So, first seed, I'm going to be growing a different variety, one I've never grown before. This is just called a classic beefsteak. It's supposed to be a really good variety of beefsteak tomato, slicing tomato. And I picked this because the guy that developed it was named Middleton, and that's my wife's maiden name. So we thought, well, it'd be fun to grow something like that. Maybe he's a relative of hers. Who knows? Don't know for sure, but it'd be fun. So, just going to start these like you would any seed. Put about 3, maybe 4 seeds in the ground here. And tomato seeds, you don't need to bury them too deep at all. So just 3 seeds right there. Just cover them up with a little bit of soil. And that's about it. And I am going to have to come back and get these things watered I do have my sprinkler system set up, and it's in here so I could water with the sprinkler. I may do that, I may not, I don't know. We're gonna find out if I need to as we go. I think it'll hold moisture in here pretty well. But anyway, that's about it. I've just got a row of these to do. This isn't gonna take but just a minute or two, and I'll have tomatoes sown in the ground here. I'm gonna do all beefsteaks in here. What I also have Bonnie's Best for a canning tomato. I've never tried to grow these, so I'm going to try to grow these this year and see how they do. I've got some Amish paste indoors, which I really like. I'm going to start those inside. But I'm only going to do probably, as far as beefsteaks versus canning tomatoes, I'm probably only going to do 3, maybe 4 beefsteaks, and then the rest will be canning tomatoes, because, you know, 3 beefsteak tomato plants, I mean, if they produce at all decent, that's a tremendous amount of tomatoes to use up fresh. And you know, the canning tomatoes I can can up, so I'm not too worried about getting these started super early. I'd rather have the beefsteak started early, but I don't need that many beefsteaks, so I've got enough room here to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tomatoes. I'll probably do 3 beefsteaks, 4 canning tomatoes inside the greenhouse, and then we'll work on outside the greenhouse. Almost forgot. I got some free seeds. This is a Thorburns Terracotta. I don't know what they are. Whenever you order from Baker Creek, they usually send a packet of free seeds. You know, half the time the free seeds, I don't really find they're that great of varieties when I've tried them in the past, but I'm going to try this one. I'm going to go ahead and put some in the ground right here, see if they grow. It's a slicing tomato, so that'll be one of my slicing tomatoes that we're going to grow this time. So, beefsteak's done. I've got 3 spots. I did 3 of the, what's it called, classic beefsteak. 1 of this free seed, the Thorburns Terracotta, and then the other 3 in here are going to be paste tomatoes or canning tomatoes. Bonnie's Best is a variety I'm going to be growing for here, and then I'll put a couple of Amish paste in because I do know I like those. Can't tell if I'm in camera or not, but you'll get the idea. So, got my seeds planted. I'm coming back and I'm putting a handful of compost or 2, just finished compost, up underneath the landscape fabric here, and just a little bit over the hole itself. And as the water runs down, it'll pull nutrients from that compost down in there. So, and the worms and the bugs and all that kind of stuff will work it down into the soil anyway. That'll give it a little bit of a boost. The ground here, my soil here is pretty well amended. I did not peel this back and put another layer of compost on it like I do pretty much every year, but like I said, I do that pretty much every year, so I think it's going to be okay this year. Next year I'll definitely have to amend it some more, but for now this should do a pretty good job of giving these guys something to eat. And I got plenty of worms and all kinds of things crawling through here, so they do a good job of keeping it fertilized for me. All right, let me get the rest of these done. We'll be back. Okay, so these are my little mini greenhouses I'm going to use to start a few peppers out here, and I'll be starting them indoors as well. It's a pretty simple concept. I mean, I'm going to start them the same way. Just put a couple seeds in the ground, cover them up a little bit, but then I've got, I don't know what these were, I don't remember, cheese balls or something. These containers here, cut a hole in the top of it so it can vent and get water inside. I've stapled the lid to the ground, got a hole cut in the lid, and then I just fit this on the lid. A little tricky to get on there, but once it's on there, it's on there. I only got a handful of these, so I can't do too many of them, but that's okay. I can start plenty of peppers inside. So I'm going to be starting jalapenos out here. Jalapenos are one of my favorites, and I'd like to get a good early start on those. All right, well, everything's planted, so I'm gonna go get by and give everything a good drink of water here. That should do it. We're done with the outside plants, but like I said, I'm not going to rely on this method alone to get my seeds started this year. I'm going to have backups. I can give them away to family and friends if I grow too many. So let's go inside and get the indoor seeds started, just for the backup, just in case these don't sprout, don't get growing, you know, whatever. I'll have something I can rely on. Let's go do it. All right, so this is how I'm going to be starting my seeds indoors this year. I'm going to be using my AeroGarden. I've got these seed starting kits that came with both of them, and it's just simply, see if I can get this out of here to show you. It's pretty simple, straightforward, but there we go. It's just a tray that you replace the top tray with, so it gives you a lot more space. This has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So this one has 23 spots that I can grow, or I can start seeds in. And then I've got my smaller sprout model AeroGarden over here. Get that one out, show you that kinda. There you go. That's got 3, 6, 9, 12, 15 spots. So I can start quite a few plants in here in this just little bitty space. They're only gonna grow in here until they're about, maybe that tall, 5 inches, 4 or 5 inches tall, something like that, and then we'll be transplanting them out. So what you do is you take these little sponges that come with it, looks like this. It's just a little grow sponge of some kind that, stick down in there. You soak these in water. It says 24 hours. I did it like 2 hours. I think that's probably plenty enough. These are filled up with water, so when I turn them on, the lights will come on, which you don't need lights to get seeds started, but once the plants start, you'll need the light. And they'll pump water through there and keep them damp. So it's a pretty simple process, really. Here, let's start with some tomatoes. Where are my tomato seeds? I don't know where I put my tomato seeds. Hang on, I gotta find them. I found a couple of them. Not the ones I was looking for, but anyway, this will work. So it's pretty simple. These were last year's seeds, but they should be fine. These are Amish paste, and I want to get a few of those started because I do like an Amish paste tomato. They're a great little paste tomato. Let me bring you in a little bit closer and we'll show you how we get these seeds started, but it's pretty easy, pretty self-explanatory, really. What I'm going to do is take 3 seeds, put them right down in the hole there, 3 or 4, just like I would be starting them in the ground. Just drop them in the hole in the sponge. That's basically it. And I don't know how well you can see that, but let me grab this other sponge. Hopefully you can see this one. It's got a big hole right there in the middle. So, that's where you're putting the seeds. That's it. So I'm doing, let's see, 3 across the back here. I'm gonna get off my fingers. I'll do 9 of these Amish paste. That seed didn't go down in there, so let's see if I can get it down in there a little bit further. There we go. That should do well. Now the nice thing about these grow sponges is when you go to transplant this, these are biodegradable. So you just pull the whole sponge out, stick it in the ground, and plant your plant, and it just degrades away. You don't have to take it out. So I got There's three rows of Amish paste here. I need to go find my other paste tomatoes seeds and get those started. But this is basically the process to get the seeds started. And then I just turn it on, and I'm gonna have to figure out some kind of humidity dome, I think. They don't have, it doesn't come with a humidity dome, which seems kind of odd to me. You know, something to set over the top until the seeds sprout to keep the humidity levels up in there. So I think I'll probably take a piece of plastic wrap or something and just wrap it with plastic wrap until the seeds sprout. And then, let's see. So there's my paste tomatoes. In here I'm going to do some peppers. I'm going to do some more tomatoes in there as well to get them started. I'm not starting seed in here. These are squash seeds that I'm going to start later, but I'm not starting those yet. They get too big too quick. These are Crooknet Early Golden Summer Squash. I started that out in the greenhouse, and I started some Honey Nut Squash out in the greenhouse. And I'll start some of them later, but right now it's just too early to get those going. They get too big too quick. So there's my Amish paste. I'm going to get some Mortgage Lifter Reds going. So I did 3 rows of Amish paste. I think I'll do 2 rows of Mortgage Lifter Reds. Oh, maybe not. I may not have enough seed to do 2 rows. We may do 1 row of Mortgage Lifter Red. I'll do the front row Mortgage Lifter Red. And then this row right here, I'll do another paste tomato, the Bonnie's Best that I started out in the greenhouse. Trying to push those seeds down in there. Get them down, get down in there, get contact. Okay, let me go find my other tomato seeds. Get these things planted out. Alright, well that's pretty much it. I got all my seeds planted. I just took a Sharpie and wrote by them what they are. Oh, I forgot to write on there what that was. Oh well, I'll remember that's poblanos. The unmarked ones are poblanos. I'll say that on the video so I can go back and watch later and remember that. I forgot to write down. Those are poblanos right there. But anyway, I marked everything else. Everything else is marked pretty well. And then I put some saran wrap or some plastic wrap over the top of these so I can trap the humidity in there. That's only going to need to be done for about the first 5 days until they sprout. And once they sprout, this plastic's going to come off. So there's not much left to do but to turn it on. And there we go. We're on. I got to set this one. Let's see. How do I do that? I've forgotten now. Oh, there we go. Hang on, let me get this all set up. I'm going through the menu. Press select button to set select. Which is the select button? Okay. So I've set that. What that's going to do is tell me, that was a little harder than it should have been. It's hard for me to see right here. But what it's going to do is it's going to keep track of this. It sets the clock. It goes on and off 12 hours a day, 15 hours a day, something like that. Right now they don't need any light. In fact, I'm going to lower these lights down. They don't need, when they come up, I'll need to keep the lights pretty close to them. So I'm going to get them down as short as they can go right now, which is right about there. They don't need the light to get sprouted, but once they sprout, they're going to need that light. So it might as well run from the beginning. And then also once they sprout and get their true leaves, I'm going to need to start feeding them. So I'll have to add some fertilizer to them or something. Normally what I would do if I was starting them in soil or like a seed starting mix is once they got to that point and got their true leaves, I transplant them into potting soil mixture with compost and things like that in it. That'll give them the nutrients that they need. But in here I'll have to add some fertilizer, which I have, which I'll do at that point. But again, when you're fertilizing these, I'm going to use half the amount that I would normally use like for a full-grown plant, for a regular plant, because these are seedlings. They're not going to need much at all to get going. And that fertilizer will be every 2 weeks. But they won't be in this thing more than just, like, once they sprout, probably 2 weeks maybe at the most, and then they're going to get transplanted out into larger containers and get ready to be planted out into the garden at that point. Well, a couple weeks after that, and they'll go under these grow lights then. But I'm going to get them started in here because I think this will be much easier than trying to start them in soil and coming in and having to water them every day and keep them watered and all that. This will do all that for me. So anyway, that's it for the seed starting. It's all done for this year for the most part. I mean, there's a couple other things that I'll start. Most of the plants that I grow in the garden. I don't start indoor. Tomatoes, peppers, those are almost the only things. Sometimes I'll start some squash indoors, but that's going to be a week or two later because that gets big very, very quickly. So I only want to start that maybe 3-4 weeks at the most before I'm going to be planting it out into the garden. Cucumbers, I don't ever start indoors. I just start them outside. They grow pretty quick. We've got a decently long growing season here. I never have a problem getting cucumbers, and so I don't bother starting those indoors. Okra is best planted. It doesn't do well transplanted. Green beans don't either. Peas, all that kind of stuff's going to get started right in the ground when it's time to start it. And some of those things you're going to have to look up. There's a really good planting calendar on johnnyseeds.com that you can check. You put in your average last frost date and it'll tell you when to plant everything and whether you should plant it direct sow or whether you should start it indoors. So you can look at that if you have questions about specific things. But for me, for the most part, tomatoes and peppers, that's about all I plant indoors or start indoors. So anyway, good luck to you guys on your gardening season. Hope it goes well. I'll keep you updated on whether the greenhouse is working and it's going to get starts out there. Once these things get started and get transplanted, they're going to go out to the greenhouse. They'll just be on a shelf out there or a rack or something like that instead of me running them under the grow lights. But we'll keep you updated as the season progresses and as things get going. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. As always, God bless.